Throughout the course I'm going to be talking a lot in multiples about kilos and micros and megas and so forth. So if you're not familiar with them, they can be very confusing, so I'll try and sort out early in the piece what it all means. Let's start with 1. Everyone knows what 1 is. It's a single unit, and we talk in volts: 1 volt, 1 amp, 1 ohm, 1 watt, and the list goes on: 1 kilogram, 1 litre, whatever you like to call it. Then moving up the scale, the next one is 10, which is 1 to the power of 10, or 10 to the power of 1, I should say. Now, we never use that multiple in electricity. They may use it in some other industries, but in electricity you rarely see anybody talk in multiples of 10. The next one up is 100, which is 1 times 10 to the second power. Again, we very rarely use powers of 100. So just be aware that 10 is 10 times 1, and it's a multiple of 1, 10 to the power of 1. 100 is 10 to the power of 2. Simple enough now, but it will get a little bit more confusing later on. The next unit we talk in is thousands, and we do this all the time. 1,000 is 1 times 10 to the third, and its symbol is kilo, K, and you will be familiar with it for kilogram, kilolitres and whatever. But in electrical terms we use kilovolt, kiloamp. Now, you won't be using kiloamp, but in my old industry we used it all the time. Thousands of amps, thousands of volts, thousands of ohms, kilo ohms. You'll be using that all the time. And you won't often be talking in kilowatts, except for your appliances. They're often rated in kilowatts, like your jug, toaster, iron, drill, whatever. The next one up is 10,000, which is 1 times 10 to the fourth. We don't use that. Then there's 100,000, which is 1 times 10 to the fifth. And the biggie, the one that we use all the time, is 1,000,000, which is a mega. That's 1 times 10 to the sixth. Its symbol is mega, big M, and we're always talking in mega ohms, very rarely in megavolts unless you're in some specific industries. Megawatts we don't use very often, but in my old industry driving power stations we had 100, 200, 300 megawatt generators which I used to run, and that's about it. So we go from 1 to 10 to 100, then we go to kilos, then we go to millions, which is mega. And that's pretty simple. When we start going the other way, it gets a little more complicated. So let's go the other way and look at some submultiples. To start again with 1 ohm, 1 volt, 1 amp. Everybody's familiar with that. 1 kilo, 1 litre, 1 watt, whatever you like to call it. Then we go down to 0.1, which is 1 times 10 to the minus 1. It is also 100 milli, Milli is a little m. Don't confuse it with mega, which is big M. That's a million, that's a thousandth. And 0.1 is 100 thousandths. You'll hear me talking in these terms all the time, particularly when we're doing the when we're designing the multimeter and building a multimeter. 0.01 is 10 to the minus 2, and it is 10 milli whatever. Could be milliamps, millivolts, milliwatts, milliohms. Very rarely talk in milliohms. And then there's another series on capacitance where you talk in millifarads, microfarads, picofarads, whatever, but we won't go into farads. This isn't an electronics lecture, it's just on multiples, and we don't deal in farads anyway. Then you have 0.001, which is 1 times 10 to the minus 3, and this is 1 milli. Now we use milli all the time. It's 1,000th of whatever, 1,000th of an ohm, 1,000th of an amp, 1,000th of a watt, 1,000th of a litre, 1,000th of a milligram is 1,000th of a gram. So 0.001, this is a major unit, and it's referred to all the time. It is 1,000th, 0.001 of a unit. Then we go into our 0.0001, which is 1 times 10 to the minus 4, which is 100 micro. Now, micro is the symbol for micro is the Greek letter mu. A lot of people confuse it with the letter U because there is no mu on a keyboard. And surprisingly, I don't think it's even in the Greek alphabet if you look at for symbols. It may be, I might have missed it. But the symbol for a millionth is mu, and that's how you'll see it written. Quite often you'll see it written mu as just a U, micro amps, microvolts, micro ohms, rarely micro ohms. Microlitres, very commonly used in the scientific industry. But we rarely use that. We don't talk in 0.1 of a micron, of a micro ohm. We talk in hundreds of micro ohms. 0.0001. Sorry, one more. I'm getting confused. I don't know how you're going. By 10 to the minus 5 is 10 micro ohms, or microvolts, or microamps. See how they're going down. Then there's the biggie that we use all the time, is 0.000001, which is 1 by 10 to the minus 6th, which is your micro. 1 millionth of whatever, an amp, a volt, a watt, an ohm. 1 millionth is 1 micro, and is 0.000001. Then you can go down into picos and nanos and all that, but we won't go that far because we don't use that. Okay, so how do we use all this in the real world? Let's say you wanted to draw a circuit. You'll be drawing plenty of circuits later on, so we might as well introduce them to you now. Here's a simple one. Here's a battery. The battery voltage would be written as, say, 3 volts. Here's my little 3 volt button battery. You'll see him later on. Then you might have a resistor. The resistor would be written something like this. 1K2. That is 1.2 kilo ohms, or 1,200 ohms. Then you might go through a meter, and you might have the voltage drop across the meter written as 0.2 of a volt, which is 200 millivolts. And back to there. So this is the sort of thing you would use that for. You could equally write, I suppose, the voltage as 3,000 millivolts, but it's a bit silly, but that's what 3,000 millivolts is. It's 3 volts, 3,000 volts. So that's basically what we do with multiples. You'll learn to multiply and divide by them. That's not part of this lesson. That was your high school teacher's domain. I just want to show you what the multiples are and how you use them.